Hello, Internet. Logan the Linguist here with a cold take on movies. Not a hot take because I've been ranting about it for a long time now, so it's definitely no longer hot. But hey, now I have a YouTube channel, so I can tell the whole Internet about it at once rather than individually blowing people's minds in person at conventions. This all started a little while after I started writing the Linguistically Interesting Media blog. In the course of analyzing a whole lot of stuff, a clear trend emerged in film and TV productions showing a slow but definite increase in linguistic sophistication, increased audience trust, and particularly willingness to develop conlangs for a wider range of properties, with this last effect being probably directly attributable to the enormous success of the Game of Thrones TV series and the popularity of the Dothraki and Valyrian languages created for it. However, to the occasional consternation of many of the people who are hired as language consultants for these productions, media conlangs are often restricted by requirements to make them easy for actors to pronounce. And furthermore, languages intended for non-human fantasy creatures or sci-fi aliens are handled either by unrealistically restricting their design to conform to what humans can pronounce, and more precisely to what is easy to pronounce for the particular actors involved with a given production, who were almost certainly not cast for their language skills, or by avoiding any language design at all and giving language representation entirely over to the sound department to produce gibberish. Individually, all of these decisions are defensible as necessary concessions to the fact that we are making films with human actors, and American audiences have historically been not all that discerning when it comes to linguistic accuracy. See, for example, Sean Connery's notable lack of attempts at Russian and Egyptian accents. It is, however, extremely strange to me to see both choices being made in the same production. Consider, for example, the case of Avatar: The Way of Water, in which Paul Frommer was brought back to develop a new dialect of the Na'vi language for the Reef tribe, and C.J. Jones was brought in to develop a Na'vi Sign Language. But when it came to portraying the language of the newly introduced Tulkun species, they just used nonsense whale sounds. If you are already paying at least one linguist to develop a new language for the film, and you are already paying the sound department to do alien voice synthesis, why not just have them talk to each other? One potential argument for why not is that a language that is not pronounceable by human fans is not worth bothering with, because part of the purpose of a media-specific conlang is to attract language geeks who will want to learn it into the fanbase for that media property. There are, however, 2 points against this. First, empirically, several film productions have been willing to invest in linguistic consistency in situations where there is no expectation or possibility that fans will be able to decode or reuse the language. See, for example, The Christmas Chronicles, Raya and the Last Dragon, or Madam Web, one of several examples where a conlang was commissioned for a film and then completely removed from the final cut. Second, across conlang user communities, for both media-related languages like Klingon, Na'vi, Dothraki, Trigadislang, etc., and non-media-related languages like Tokipona or Unnels, the vast majority of fan community communication occurs in text. Thus, it should be possible to build a fan user community of a media tie-in language regardless of whether or not it can actually be pronounced. Heck, Unnels can't even be typed, but fans still put in the effort to draw pictures to each other on Discord. Now, this may well seem like an incredibly unimportant issue, but it really started occupying my thoughts when I found out that an adaptation of Andy Weir's novel Project Hail Mary was in pre-production in 2023. This would be the perfect film to introduce a proper alien conlang, because a good bit of the book hinges on the human protagonist learning to recognize words of an alien language and developing a pidgin communication system based on receptive bilingualism with his alien friend. And it would be a ridiculous crying shame if the audience were deprived the ability to go on that same journey along with the protagonist, or at least to notice that there is some consistency in the alien sounds. I even emailed Andy Weir at the time about this and got a very positive response, including Andy saying that he would forward my recommendation to the producers, but nothing ever came from that, and that now that the film is in post-production, I have very little expectation that they actually did a good job. I kind of hope that David Peterson was secretly hired for the project and no one knows yet due to NDAs. A few years ago, I would not have trusted even David with the project based on his corpus of existing work, but after his last couple of Copcon talks, I think Hollywood's favorite conlanger might actually have the Xenolinging skills to pull this off after all. But I digress. After finding out about the Project Hail Mary adaptation, I saw the film Landscape with Invisible Hand, which was almost painful due to how much of an obvious missed opportunity it was. Language in that story is not as central to the plot as it is in Project Hail Mary, but they've got literally everything else in place, except someone to actually make the alien speech consistent. So, that's at least 3 major motion picture projects released or in production within the space of a single year back in 2023, for which this is actually a relevant issue, which suggests that there will be more, and there is still some room for someone to be the first one to get it right. So, if you happen to have anything at all to do with the film, TV, or audio drama industries, I am hoping I have now ruined all future SF&F for you, as you won't be able to stop noticing this problem and telling everyone else you know about it, and maybe on some future project you'll think, hey, why don't we try putting in the minimal amount of effort to do this one thing right, and get immortalized in film geek history as the first. And hey, if you want to hire me personally to help you out with that, I totally would not object. Okay, bye.